If you met an attractive woman right now and you wanted to have sex with her or have her as your girlfriend, what do you think the best approach would be? To make her feel comfortable around you or make her feel uncomfortable around you? For most guys, they're going to be thinking, well, make her feel comfortable because that's how you get a woman to like you, right? You've got to make her feel comfortable. If she's uncomfortable, she's not going to like you. She's going to feel awkward around you. It's not going to feel good. But the reality is that not all uncomfortable emotions feel bad. Sometimes you'll be in an uncomfortable situation or feeling a bit uncomfortable and it will be exciting, right? For example, when you're doing something that is outside of your comfort zone, for example, that can feel uncomfortable, but it can also feel exciting at the same time, right? And when it comes to attraction, something most men never realize their entire life is that attraction thrives on tension, not comfort. Women automatically add in some tension into the dynamic between themselves and a man by being more selective about sex and not chasing sex. Right? So for the man, it might feel a bit uncomfortable that he doesn't know for sure if the woman wants to have sex with him, but that creates tension between him and her. And that can increase his attraction and desire for her, whether he realizes it or not, or whether he would rather women just say to him, hey, I like you, I want to have sex with you, I want to have a relationship with you. If he would prefer that, like most guys would, right? They would just like it to be nice and easy. They would prefer that, right? But he can prefer that, but because women are typically much more selective about sex and they don't chase sex in the way that men do, and that's not men's fault, by the way. The area in a man's brain dedicated to sexual pursuit is 2.5 times larger compared to a woman's brain, right? So it's not a man's fault that he wants to get to sex more than a woman does. But because women aren't chasing sex in the same way that men do, it creates that tension. Right? And it may feel a bit uncomfortable, but it still creates tension. And his attraction for her and his desire for her can increase because it's something that he really wants, but isn't sure that he can get. Right? And it creates that exciting tension. But for some guys, it can be very uncomfortable, and for some guys, it might be annoying, right? They just want the woman to say, I like you, I want to have sex with you, and just say yes right away. But the way that women are wired to approach sex automatically creates tension between themselves and a man, right? So attraction thrives on tension, right? If everything's just too comfortable and easy, the amount of desire that a man and a woman will feel for each other will decrease, especially over time, right? If they get into a relationship. If it's just too comfortable, too easy, there's no sexual tension between them, there's no sort of cat and mouse game going on at times, or she's trying to get more sex with him and there's that tension there, or he's trying to get some more sex from her and it's that cat and mouse sort of game, right? So if there is no tension, it's just all comfortable and blasé and neutral, then attraction and sexual desire will decrease. So what happens for a lot of guys is that they will interact with women and they'll want the women to feel sexually attracted to them. But for the guy, he will want to do what's comfortable for him. What's comfortable for him is just to make her feel comfortable, to talk to her and get along with her, treat her well, and have a comfortable interaction with her. But it's not something that is turning her on, right? It's a comfortable interaction. But if he were to add in some tension now, she would start to feel it and he would start to see it. He would see her start to react to him in a different way, to look at him in a different way, to feel that tension and feel like there's something there or it's on between him and her. And another example is that she'll feel a bit uncomfortable around him, but it will be enjoyable. It will be exciting. It will be a turn on. She'll be feeling like there's tension between him and her, and she's sensing his power and confidence, and that's turning her on, right? So women naturally create sexual tension by being more selective about sex and not chasing it. Men can do that as well, but it doesn't work if a man just ignores women and shows that he's not interested in sex. They don't care about that. Instead, what works is that if a man interacts with a woman and makes her feel very attracted and she wants him, and then she senses that he could take her or leave her, right? He could easily just change his mind and start talking to another woman, and she's going to have to turn on her charm and really win him over. That will work because then she's trying to get a chance with him. But that's another story altogether, right? What I'm talking about in this video is a man creating tension between himself and a woman and making her feel a bit uncomfortable in a good way rather than just trying to make her feel comfortable, right? So for example, when a man is talking to a woman that he finds attractive and he wants her to like him and he wants her to want him, what he'll often do is make the mistake of filling in every silence in the conversation with small talk or just rushing to say something because he doesn't want her to feel uncomfortable if there's a silence in the conversation. He'll see it as an awkward silence, for example, and he'll then worry that she's going to start feeling awkward and uncomfortable. He's making her feel uneasy and it's not an enjoyable interaction for her, so he better rush to say something. Otherwise, she's not going to like him because of how uncomfortable he's making her feel. Whereas a guy who understands that attraction thrives on tension, not on comfort, will allow small silences to exist, and he'll be comfortable to maintain eye contact with her, or if they're at a cafe together on a first date, for example, and there's a bit of a silence, he might let it exist and grab his coffee and just have a sip and look at her. All right? And she's feeling that tension now, and she's feeling a bit uncomfortable, but it's not in a bad way because she's sensing his power now. Right? She's sensing that he's not afraid of her. She's sensing that he's not intimidated. She's sensing that he has secure masculinity and he doesn't feel like he needs to suppress his masculinity and be really nice and soft and reassuring now to make her feel comfortable. Instead, he knows that his confidence and masculinity is going to make her feel attracted, and there's going to be some tension in the moment, and she's going to enjoy that. Yes, she may feel a bit uncomfortable, but it's not a bad uncomfortable feeling where she wants to leave the date. Instead, it's an attractive uncomfortable feeling where she's feeling that tension between him and her, and she's sensing that he's not afraid of her, he's not intimidated by her. He seems like he's comfortable with his masculinity, and therefore she feels more feminine, and therefore she feels more attracted. Likewise, if a guy focuses on making a woman feel comfortable around him, rather than feeling tension, and he doesn't get it, he will want to avoid showing any sexual interest in her because he worries that it will be too forward and it will make her feel uncomfortable, right? Maybe they're not there yet, so to speak, right? So he can't go there and show some subtle sexual interest. He'll worry that it will seem too forward, and that will make her feel uncomfortable. But a guy who understands that attraction thrives on tension, not on comfort, will be able to show subtle signs of sexual interest in her based on how he's looking at her, the way that he's using his tone of voice, and she'll pick up on that. And as a result, it creates that discrete sexual tension between him and her, where she realizes that it's on between him and her, right? It's not just a neutral, friendly conversation, right? A professional sort of conversation. Instead, there's something else going on. There's that sexual tension building between him and her, and that is what is necessary in order to get to a kiss, sex, and into a relationship. If a guy doesn't create sexual tension and he tries to initiate a kiss with a woman, then she may reluctantly kiss him, but she's not going to be feeling very turned on by him. She's not going to be really enjoying it. And it's actually going to be uncomfortable for her in a bad way. Right? She's going to feel like this is awkward. We've just been talking in a friendly way, in a professional way, or a neutral way, and now he's just moved in for a kiss, and she's like, okay, and she just goes along with it. And it feels uncomfortable in a bad way. But when a guy creates tension, and she is feeling sexual tension, she's feeling that desire, and she wants something to happen, and it's that discrete understanding between him and her that they find each other sexually attractive, and then he moves in for a kiss, fireworks, right? She's feeling it. She's getting those butterflies in her stomach. She wants it to happen because she's been feeling attracted, and the tension has been building between him and her. And tension is not something that you need to build for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours before something can happen, right? A member of my community, and this is the record, for example, it's the fastest pickup of our community, right? Some guys have kissed women within a couple of minutes of meeting them and so on. Another guy went out and within 30 minutes of meeting a woman, they were back at his place having sex and so on. But this guy, after watching the lessons that are available for a member when he joins at Master Attraction, he used the mindset that I teach in the lesson on confidence. And if you use it right, it creates tension between you and the woman because she senses that you're not afraid of her. She senses that you're not intimidated. She senses that you seem more confident than her. And as a result, she starts to feel uncomfortable in a good way. Because women want to be with a guy who is at least as confident as them, but ideally more confident than them. And for this guy, he used the mindset, and it was a sexy Persian woman who was 20 years younger than him. And if I remember correctly, he was saying in his post that it's pouring with rain now or something like that. And what he means is that he has so many women in his life that, as he went on to say, he has to be careful to make sure he gets their names right. And that's what happens, right? When you have a lot of women in your life. If you're seeing a couple of women at once, then it's very easy to remember their names and the things that they've told you. But when you start having more than 4 women in your life at once, you may sometimes find yourself remembering something she said and saying it back to her, only to find out that it was another girl that you're seeing that said that. And what's interesting is that for most women, right, not all, but for most women in a situation like that, they'll feel a bit uncomfortable, but not in a bad way, because they'll realize that the guy is seeing other women. If you know how female attraction works, you know that women feel more attracted to men who other women want. So it doesn't reduce his attractiveness. But that said, it's not something that a guy needs to do in order to attract women. It's just something that naturally happens when you're seeing a lot of women. You'll sometimes forget some of the things that they've said and may say something to her that another girl said to you. And she's like, well, I didn't say that. Who are you talking about? Right? And it can be that funny moment. But for some women, it'll make them feel uncomfortable in a bad way. They'll be like, well, this guy's a player. I want a guy who is going to settle down with me, and it'll make her feel a bit upset. And she may say, well, hang on, what the heck's going on? You know, like, are we exclusive or not? So it can make some women feel uncomfortable in a bad way. But what's interesting is that for many women, it won't make them feel uncomfortable in a bad way. Instead, it'll actually create some tension where she realizes that she is not the only woman who is vying for your attention, who has the opportunity to win your heart, to win you over. And as a result, if she really likes you, she'll want to make you want her more. And it may be a bit uncomfortable for her, but it can also be exciting for her, where she's going to win over the guy that she really wants, that other girls are trying to lock down, right, to get to commit to them. And she gets to become the lucky girl who becomes his exclusive girlfriend, right? So not all uncomfortable feelings are bad uncomfortable feelings, right, that a woman doesn't want to experience ever. For example, if a guy thinks that the way to get a woman is to just make her feel comfortable, when he's interacting with her, he may stand back and not get too close to her, because he thinks if I get a bit close to her, she might feel uncomfortable by that. But a guy who understands that attraction thrives on tension rather than comfort is not going to be afraid to get a bit closer to her at times. And for example, if they happen to sit down on a sofa together, a guy who just wants to make her feel comfortable may sit back, right, and be maintaining a quote-unquote safe distance from her to show her that he's just a friendly guy having a chat with her. But a guy who understands that attraction thrives on tension rather than comfort will not be worried about putting his arm around her, or not be worried about sitting closer to her to the point where their hips are touching, right? And he may bump against her with his shoulder when she says something funny, or when she seems to be flirting with him, or when she seems a bit uncomfortable in a good way, when she's feeling a bit nervous and unsure of herself around him, right? Rather than thinking, well, I'm sitting close to her and she seems nervous and unsure of herself, so I better get back, you know, and make her feel comfortable, and start focusing on trying to make her feel as comfortable as possible. If a guy does that and she senses that he's afraid of tension, or that he just doesn't know how to make women feel attracted, and he thinks that he needs to be really nice and make the woman feel comfortable, then she will usually end up just seeing him as a friend. And when he attempts to move in for a kiss, she'll pull back and she'll say something like, sorry, I just see you as a friend. And he'll be thinking, what the heck's going on here? Right? We've been getting along for the last 2 or 3 hours. She's been laughing at my jokes. What the heck's going on? Well, he's just been trying to make her feel comfortable, which is nice, but it's not something that skyrockets attraction. It's not something that turns a woman on. So does that mean if you want to get laid or get a girlfriend, or you want a woman to want you, then you have to focus on making her feel as uncomfortable as possible? Absolutely not. You can be interacting with a woman and making her feel comfortable as she interacts with you, but you can then also add in tension, right? If it's just comfort, then it's a little bit of a yawn fest, right? It's a bit boring. It's essentially a friend zone situation. It feels good, it feels nice, but she's not going to be feeling it, right? She's not going to be feeling turned on. She's not going to be thinking, wow, I want to jump on this guy, right, and start kissing him. But if you're making her feel comfortable because you're just having a friendly chat with her, but you're also adding in tension where she's feeling a bit uncomfortable in a good way, and she's starting to feel excited and starting to feel turned on, she's starting to feel your power, that's when she starts looking at you in a different way. She's feeling it and wants something to happen. Now, compare that to just a friendly conversation, and you'll notice the woman behaving in a completely different way. She'll just be having a chat with you, and it's like she could take you or leave you, right? She's not really feeling it. Yet, when you're a guy who can add in the kind of tension that makes a woman feel a bit uncomfortable in a good way, then you'll have those moments where it's on between you and a woman pretty much every time you interact with a woman. And when that happens, you realize that you're in control now, right? It's not a case of you waiting and hoping that women will like you and make it really obvious that they like you, or you wasting time talking to a woman for 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months and just trying to make her feel comfortable and show her that you're a really good guy, you've got good intentions. Great, fantastic, but that's not the thing that's going to turn her on. If you want to turn her on just like that, then add in tension. Attraction thrives on tension, not on comfort.